You may be wondering why I'm down here. Well, I need to get some measurements of this frame so we can design it in the computer in CAD before we order all the parts, just to save some money and be a little bit more efficient. So let's get up off this ground. So as you can see, the bed of this truck has kind of become a little bit of a storage unit, but for good reason. So a couple days ago, I picked up C6 Corvette suspension. This is what's gonna be put on the brand new frame that we're gonna be making. First, we gotta design it in CAD, and then we need to order the material. There's a lot of measuring to do, an insane amount of measuring. Probably the past week or two, I've been trying to figure out the spacing for the frame rails. The front and the back of these arms are different track widths or different lengths. So it's really hard to just like figure things out. That's why we're trying to figure out in the computer so we can order the correct material. We're gonna do that. We need to figure out spacing for the top and the bottom control arms. I don't know, so if one's on the rail, it's not straight up and down, parallel, whatever with each other. The top sits way more forward outside of the car than it does the bottom. So that's just another, not issue, but we need to figure out those dimensions. I have a buddy that does have a C6 Corvette. I will probably run over there and measure all of his suspension parts and see if we can just get a little bit of an accurate measurement. So I picked up these suspension parts for 800 bucks, and it's all four sides. So lower control arm, upper control arm, and the knuckle hub assembly. There's some bolts. I need to buy a lot more OEM bolts to go with it, but there's a lot more we need to figure out and a lot more stuff we need to get. I'm gonna try and be as informative as possible with this. I'm obviously not a professional and I don't really know what I'm doing, so don't follow everything I say, I guess. If there's a better way to do it, I'm sure someone in the comments can say it, or you can find someone online, but this is just how I'm doing it. So I messed up a lot. I relied too much on the internet, which is a big no-no. It says this is a 115 wheelbase. I measured it with a laser level straight down the center of the wheels. It's a 114. So all of my measurements were off an inch, and that's not great. So learn from my mistake, measure every little piece of this car or whatever car, truck you're working on, measure like crazy. So I needed the wheelbase, I needed the track width, which is almost irrelevant because of the suspension I'm putting on it. It's like this track width is like 64.5 inches, which puts the tire, the wheel in a little bit on the fender. And with the C6 suspension, it's like a good bit wider. So if I were to just throw the C6 suspension on here, an entire tire, the entire wheel will stick completely outside of the fender. So we had to bring the frame rails in, and you'll see that on the computer in a little bit. But my number one tip is get a laser level. I just found this, I've had this thing for like 6 years, never used it. I was using it for like home remodel stuff, and I just found it in my cabinet. I was like, oh, this might work. Which this thing got such precise measurements. This one's kind of expensive. I don't know how much it was, but I know it was like kind of expensive. So this thing levels, I don't know if we can see it here. So this thing levels inside. It levels itself, and then it gives you a straight line. You can also lock it, so it's like completely straight however you want. And it blinks at you if it's off by too much. So This thing was a dream. It let me get the center, the exact center of the wheel. And this thing's really high, so it's like hard to get things like perfectly straight. So it helped me get like a full measurement of the back to the front. So I just put this on the ground, lined it up to with where I wanted it on the frame or the body. And then I put tape on the ground right where this level, right where the line was. And then I just measured tape to tape. So the main measurements I got for the body is I measured the cab, so the firewall to like the back, and then I measured basically from the back of the cab to where I needed it, which was the end of the frame rail. I don't really need it for the back. And then from the firewall to where the frame rail starts as well. So from those measurements, I kind of triangulated where the wheel is, and I was like off by maybe less than 1/4 of an inch on the wheelbase, which doesn't really matter. It matters for the most part, like on pretty much anything you do. But for this, once I put 20-inch wheels and then a 315 tire, this thing is gonna be, it's gonna completely fill the wheel arch. So I'm going to have to cut it no matter what. Both wheel arches, I'm absolutely gonna have to cut. So if I'm off just a slight bit, it doesn't matter because I have to cut a brand new arch and put fender flares on no matter what. So that's just my situation, but for you, make sure you measure like crazy and get it down to the absolute best you can get. And that's what's great about Fusion or like SolidWorks or whatever you use, is you can like really test those measurements and get it perfect. All right, so we are jumping into Fusion here, and this is what I've come up with. So let's do a top-down shot. So this is just showing a lot of the measurements I have. So if you look at these orange lines, we have the overall length of the truck. I added a couple of inches because it does go to whatchamacallit. It does go to the tailgate. Right here is where it's just the frame rails, which is really all I need because I'm gonna cut these pieces myself. So I'm gonna be ordering this long frame rail as one piece. So one piece, one piece. So we got the two long frame rails, and then we have the full cab. This is exactly where all of the cab, so front of the cab, back of the cab right here, and then obviously the bed. So these orange lines are obviously just little measurements I'm going off of and I'm building off of. We have the track width, and then the wheelbase is between these, and these are right on the hub. I don't know if we can see it, but it goes right to where the wheel meets the hub. These are all 3D scans that I found online. I made the wheel or the tire because these were not 315s. So we are going with a flat base, and then it's just gonna shoot up to the tailgate, and then it's gonna connect to the tailgate because this, you obviously don't need all that stuff. And the front of these two lower control arms are not as wide as the rear. So we brought the frame rails in to accommodate for the rear, and then we are going to make some brackets that go all the way out to here, and we'll box them in. We'll make them pretty strong. We need to make some supports that go all the way to this upper control arm as well. I'm not going to do that right now because there's a lot more measurements I need to take. I just wanted to get this base figured out so we can build this part, and then I can make where these attach. These are obviously off a little bit, but it'll be fine. So these are the tires that we are going to be putting on, and they are almost absurd, but I think it's going to look really good once everything is put together. These middle bars, I don't know if these are gonna be here or not. This is obviously gonna be for the rear diff. I might do one of them, just tack it in. This one will be here, and then these two will for sure be here. And then obviously all of this tubing is. But I think I'm gonna figure out most of that in person. All I really needed were these two long rails and then a couple supports just to square it all up and make it look good and make sure that the wheels are in the right spot.